Hey, what's up, Gamingtrend? I'm over here with Sean from Mayfair Games, and he's going to be showing us off one of his new games, which is called Café. We're going to play a couple rounds and talk about how this game works, but can you introduce us a little bit to the game?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
So Café is it's a new import that we brought over from Essen last year, and we're super excited. It's actually our first release we're releasing here at the show.
Very cool.
After a long hiatus from Mayfair.
Yeah.
And so the idea of Café is that everybody starts off with their own little coffee shop, and it's a 6-quadrant little card.
Okay.
And every turn you're going to draft a card, and then you must add it to your coffee shop by covering 2, 3, or 4 squares of your existing card.
Okay.
So I might do something like grab this card and come over and do something like that. That would be a legal move because it covered at least 2. Why this would be an advantageous move is these beans all align now. So everything in this game rewards you for being cooperative orthogonally. So if I put together multiple beans, when I take an action to plant beans, I get to plant all beans that are orthogonal.
Okay.
So if I make 2 different fields, I have to pick one or spend 2 actions. If I make it all one giant field, I get more reward.
Okay.
That also works for the dryers and the roasters. We're making coffee, ultimately trying to ship it to our warehouse or coffee shops that will fulfill those orders. So the first thing you must do when you make coffee is you have to plant the beans. So for 1 action point, I could come over here and plant the beans, and I would get all of those. So 4 cubes for 1. If I had another action, which I currently don't, actions are represented by coffee cups. So my cafe only has 1 coffee cup. The only thing I could do for the turn would be to plant the beans.
Okay.
On your turn, you would be able to draft. You always have a choice of 3, and you would get to draft 1 of those 3 and add it to your coffee shop.
Okay. So if I went, say, here, I could cover this up, and then it gives me 2 actions.
Yep, 2 actions, and it continues your bean field.
Right, so I get to do a plant action. Oh, gotta do that. And then it would be...
You could dry one of those beans.
Dry one of the beans?
Yep, so you'd pick all of one color,
okay,
and then move it over to your dryer.
All right.
That would be a second action.
That would be a second action.
Now, you did select a card with a coffee cup.
Okay.
So we all start with 1 of every bean in our warehouse over here.
Okay.
So you must use 1 of those beans to pay for that cup of coffee.
I gotcha.
And usually I tell people pick a color that you don't produce.
Right.
Right.
So if I don't produce red, does that mean that my yellow would get to go and dry as well?
No, because these are already dried and in your warehouse.
Okay.
So yeah, I would actually go with yellow because
gotcha.
you're already
I
producing
have
one and you seem to be able to make it. So
makes
no
sense.
problem.
Okay.
And so then in a 2-player game, once we would both select that, we would wipe these out. And of course, next turn we would get 3 new ones. But this is where we would take our actions. So we draft the card first, then we take our actions.
Gotcha.
So like in your case, that's exactly right. You could plant and then you could dry.
Okay.
And then the next round would just come up and we would flip like this. So we'd have 3 more choices. I would pass you the first player marker. And so you would get first draft this time.
Okay.
And we've introduced a couple of new pieces. So the ship right here, which is pretty cool. If you get 2 of those in your cafe at any point, you can take any card with a coffee cup for free. Now you don't have to pay beans for them.
Okay.
So you get a little synergy as you go. So it could be helpful. The other thing is like this guy came up, which is a coffee shop in Lisboa. And if you can give them a yellow cube and a yellow bean and a red bean, you're going to get 3 victory points. So on their own in your warehouse, you get 1 of every color. You score your 2 least. So you're incentivized to always build those in quads.
Okay.
It's much better to put 2 beans over there and get 3 points. It's a much better payoff.
Right.
All right. So this is, in general, you would like to roast things and you would like to get them to coffee shops, not your warehouse.
Right.
But your warehouse is just an optional place to get more points.
Okay.
But always think of it as something like that is a good card to score. It's why I grabbed one that gives me a cafe, gives me a goal to build towards.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
But you have options.
I do.
Another really cool thing that can happen is, let's say you were to grab a card that was going to give you another dryer.
Okay.
Everything in this game feeds off of synergy. So if you were to put a dryer next to one of your other dryers, every time you spend 1 action point, you activate all orthogonal dryers, just like all orthogonal beans. You can also do that with the roasters. And you can start getting some really cool combos where you spend 2 actions and you plant beans, roast them, dry them, and deliver them, and you can be really, really efficient. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can already see that, it seems pretty simple in terms of how the gameplay works, but already my brain is starting to think about what's the next move and what do we do.
Well, and you know what'll really catch new players off is effectively we're 2 turns in to an 8-turn game.
Oh, right.
While explaining and playing, I mean, we could be done with this game in 15, 20 minutes.
At the end of a cup of coffee, you would say.
And exactly.
Exactly.
Over a cup of coffee.
Over a cup of coffee.
Exactly.
It's like the kind of game I would like in the first thing in the morning as you go through. So if I say I wanted to grab here, I could go, and I could cover up.
Yeah, you could cover quad, which is great because it adds to your bean field.
My bean field, and still have my 2 actions.
Still have your 2 actions, and you're actually 1 ship away from getting free coffee cups.
Free coffee cups.
Which, hey, there's still 5, 6 turns left.
Yeah.
Not a bad little gig right there.
So if I do some planting, does that do the ones that already have one?
Yep. Every bean space can only hold 1 bean space.
Just 1 bean space. But then I could.
But now you're up to 2 actions, so yeah.
2 actions. So I could potentially dry again, or I could roast.
You could go to a different dryer, or you could take something from a dryer to a roaster.
Right. So why don't I just do, I don't know. I don't know the strategy yet, so I'm just gonna feel as we go.
So a really good move there is you can move all of 1 color to a dryer.
To a dryer.
Yeah. So you could take
the yellow.
Right. You could double your yield.
And
right.
Go to my yield.
There you go.
As I go through. So there's 2 actions.
Absolutely. Okay, and then I would look at something like I'd get a 3rd option, of course, and maybe I'll grab this guy and I'll spend 1 of my coffee as well. I'll spend a green there, and all right, let's see, where do I want to put this? So interestingly enough, you can do things like I've got a little gap here, right? But it's also my coffee cup. I could go in here and do something like this.
Right.
Right. Even though it covers a coffee cup, I'd be hurting myself this turn for an action.
Right.
But what I like about this move is I've really set myself up for a free cover next turn, and I can really expand even better. And given that I've already planted, not a big deal for me because I can just take these guys right over here for the dryer for my 1 action. And I'm a lot closer to finishing this 6-point coffee shop order over there in Lisboa.
Very cool.
And I mean, and literally in short order, we're 3 turns in on an 8-turn game.
Yeah.
So
you talked about bringing this one over from Essen. Wow, what caught your eye for this game as a developer?
You know, we were over as we picked up. We bought the rights to the company from Asmodee last year at Origins was when we kind of finalized everything. So for us, this is like our 1 year. Hey, 1 year later, and here we are. We went to Essen. We were walking around looking for some really cool games that we wanted to bring back to the States. And I really just enjoyed the entire Pythagoras line. And we actually licensed the entire line from them. So we're doing Café, we're doing Latte, we're doing Celta. And they had a couple of other games in the back catalog. We love them all, and we will eventually bring them all over because it's just a really quality company, and they make just excellent games that we just really, really enjoy.
Cool. Well, if somebody wanted to pick up Café, what's the best way to do that?
MayfairGames.com.
MayfairGames.com.
Mayfair-games.com.
Games. Well, this is Café from Mayfair Games. Take a look at it on the website. Take a look at the rest of their games.
Thanks, guys.